why it is so difficult to make friends and have friend relationships as an adult. When you're in school and you're a kid, everybody's your friend. But when you become an adult, it doesn't seem to flow that easily. Or are we just telling ourselves it's that hard and it's really not?
Here we grow again. Our hearts on the mend. What I want is what I want. Soft spaces.
Welcome to Softspaces Podcast, where I share a little bit of me to connect with a little bit of you so we can create a community of wholeness together where our unmuted voices find healing to thrive in every area of our lives. My name's Yolanda Lewis, and I am your host. And today we're talking about why it is so difficult to make friends and have friend relationships as an adult. When you're in school and you're a kid, everybody's your friend. But when you become an adult, it doesn't seem to flow that easily. Or are we just telling ourselves it's that hard and it's really not? When we tell ourselves it's that hard, are we really talking to an open wound in our life from childhood, from the way we connected to the adults around us? Maybe it's not so difficult. I don't know. Because I am one of those people who have challenges with making friends as adults. I know lots of people. I get tons of invites to dinners and lunches and events and all the things. But if I'm honest, because this is a soft space, and so we can be vulnerable here and it's safe, if I am honest, I'm not always excited about doing that. Let me give you an example. Have you ever received a lunch date invitation that you dreaded going to? Not because the person wasn't nice. Oh my gosh, they were so wonderful and lovely and kind and excited. And they might be like just awesome, right? But you did not want to go. You didn't want to go. What was the reason you didn't want to go? It wasn't because you didn't feel good. It wasn't because you were tired. You didn't want to go because you didn't want to connect. Have you ever felt that way? Like, if you're really honest and you look at the real reason why you didn't want to show up, you might find that it was because you didn't want to connect. You maybe had a fear of connecting with this person. So let me share with you a little bit about where that comes from. When we look back at our first connection, our first relationship is with our parents, is with our adult figures, whether you are in a situation of adoption, what have you, that first relationship you have is with the adults in your life. And this, based on a theory by John Bowley, is an indication of how you will connect in the world when you become an adult. It is a part of our human experience to have connections with people, intimate connections. And it's a good thing. Intimate meaning emotional, meaning we have an emotional exchange that cares, that gives pleasure, and that provides comfort. So when you look at the establishment, the original establishment of those attachments, you might find that you fall into one of four categories. One category is secure attachment. And with the secure attachment, you are confident, you are most satisfied with your relationships because you know how to navigate all of the emotions that come up. That would be considered a secure attachment style. Then there is an anxious attachment style. And that anxious attachment style, they have a fear of abandonment. They think always that you're going to leave them. And with that attachment style, how it shows up in other relationships as an adult, and how you think about relationships as an adult, it shows up to where you might find yourself doing a little bit extra just so that you can get paid more attention to and catered to more because you have this fear of them leaving you, this person leaving you in the relationship. Then there is the avoidant attachment style. And the avoidant attachment style is when you are not a fan of intimacy, you're very independent. This attachment style in relationships is very independent. This individual is reluctant to intimacy. They will avoid it at all cost, and they are reluctant to open up in a relationship. And then finally, the fourth one is disorganized, a disorganized attachment style. And in this disorganized attachment style, this individual will find themselves kind of always in a situation, always in a mess where they can't figure out their emotions. The emotions, when they show up, they're all over the place and everything is in disarray. You probably could identify which one you were in. And I'll just tell you simply, I have, in terms of what I have to be aware of and make sure that I'm constantly working on, and the reason why I have difficulty with adult relationships and really connecting with people is the avoidant attachment style. In the avoidant attachment style, I'll start with that one first. In the avoidant attachment style, your parents were emotionally unavailable, distant, they gave you space for whatever the reason, not necessarily wrong or right, but this is how you learned connection. You learned that the way to survive in the world with relationship is to avoid direct, intimate connection. You learn to avoid it. You learn to keep it at a distance. And so it's good so long as it's outside here. It's outside here. It's never behind the wall. Never, 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 never. With a secure parent, they were there. And there doesn't necessarily mean in a two-parent household. It just means that there was a healthy dynamic and you learned and felt the healthy dynamic between your two parents. You felt the love. You felt the love, and it didn't interrupt the way that you looked at relationships because they always made sure you felt secure. When we look at the anxious attachment style, more than likely there was a lot of trauma going on to where this child, in terms of their attachment style, learned that in order to connect in relationships, you've got to make a fuss because if you don't, and they don't see you, right? They don't see you, then you won't connect. You won't get the attention that you need. So I explained already how that shows up in the relationships to where in that anxious attachment style, you have a fear of abandonment and you are doing the most in order to get attention because you really never got that in how you learned relationships should look. Then in the disorganized attachment style, total chaos all around you, definitely trauma. And those parents were just not able to be there for you for whatever their reason and all of the reasons. They were not able to really be there for you in the way that you needed. And it was always changing and it was always something going on. So if you found yourself, as I'm sharing these four different attachment styles, of secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized, if you found yourself resonating with, you know what, that's actually how I grew up, or you know what, that's how I am now, then keep listening because I want to share with you a few ways that you can look at healing those wounds. Because if they're interrupting how you connect as an adult to make friends, then this is an open wound that needs a little bit of healing. That's all. No judgment. It's just exposing that you may need a little bit of healing in this area. And that's okay. So let's dive into what that looks like. The first part of what that healing looks like is awareness. Simply just you being aware that, you know what? That's me. That's me. And you are realizing that you need to work on this wound. It's not that the people are bad, and it's not that you don't want to engage because we all need connection. It's not that. It's the simple fact that that wound, that attachment wound, is still open. And let me say this too, what happens when we don't heal that is we find ourselves in isolation or in loner mode or connecting to people only because of the trauma that you share. We don't want to have toxic bonds, trauma bonds, where we're connecting with people only because we both have gone through the same experience. And so whenever we talk, it's only about this terrible experience. That's going to weigh your soul down, having only those connections. There is time and place for those conversations. But if your relationship revolves or is anchored in the trauma only, there's no room for it to grow because you're stuck there and not pursuing healing. So, awareness, being aware that you have this open attachment wound that you want to work on so that you can have healthier, thriving relationships as adult friendships in your life. All right. Be aware. In your awareness, you're also considering whether or not in a moment you feel distressed. As soon as you get that invite, are you feeling distressed? Maybe you're at an event and someone walks right up to you and they're warm and fuzzy and all of the things, but you are almost feeling like you're going to have a panic attack because they are so intimately close to you in proximity. Right? So, what kind of proximity maintenance are you going to carry? That is also an awareness. And then, of course, how are you finding a safe haven? How are you finding a soft space so you can get through that moment? Whether you are in public, whether you are at home, and you're looking, you're staring at this invite on your phone or on your computer or on the telephone, you're holding space and just giving yourself a pause. You want to find a safe space, a soft space, even in that moment where you're feeling distress and you're aware of it, where you're noticing that the proximity of your intimacy lines and boundaries are being crossed. And they may not be in violation of it's going to harm you. However, because of your attachment wounds, it feels too close for comfort, a proximity maintenance. And then, of course, finding a soft space where you can calm all your emotions down so you don't feel like they have to be in this heightened state in order to survive the moment. Okay? So, awareness, that is number one. Number two is take small steps. Rome was not built in a day, neither will your wounds heal overnight. Usually, anything having to do with relationship is going to take time to heal because the relationship concepts that you need to practice are only practiced in a relationship. So give yourself grace for small steps. For some, that might mean go outside, girl. One event. You don't have to go to all of them. Pick one event, one person. Because here's what happens, we get into this place where the trigger looks like fear of having to open up again, fear of possibly being hurt. I know for myself, my one of my bestest girlfriends, she passed away. It has been That's one of the ways that the trigger alarmed itself to me that I had this attachment wound issue of avoidance. It was being exposed because what triggered it was my fear of having to open up to someone again and trust someone again. I didn't want to do that. I'm learning. But I did not want to do that. I didn't want to practice that. I had no desire to practice that again. I loved what we had. I loved it. I loved it. Like literally, I loved it. And I know there's a part of me that is okay with as well. I won't ever have that again. I'm okay with that. Took me some time, but I'm okay with that now. However, the new struggle, after I got through all of those hurdles, the new struggle was I don't want to do that again. I don't want to open up again. Not for fear of being hurt or fear of, I don't want to be open. It was already hard enough because that taps into my childhood wounds that are constantly being moved beyond. There's levels to this healing, right? If things come up, they don't trigger me to response because I've healed beyond that. But there are instances, like with this situation of making adult friends, that was very challenging. It opened up a new level of why don't we want to do this? Well, this is why, because it's connected to stuff from childhood. And that's okay because we're noticing it, we're being aware, and we're going to take those small steps to move forward. So, small steps, go outside, hun. Go outside, sis. Go outside and enjoy yourself and come home and take it off. My sisters, they crack up laughing because whenever I go out or I do an event or whatever it is, when I get home, my brother in particular, when I get home, I don't look anything like how I looked when I showed up and went outside because I'm so relaxed and my hair is in a bonnet and I'm chilling. I'm relaxing. Okay. So do all of those things after you took your small step. Reward yourself with some relaxation and some self-care the way you like to do it in your bonnet or whatever works for you in your t-shirt and your sweatpants, whatever it is, do that. All right, but take the small step. Take the small step. Be aware, take the small step. And lastly, be conscious about healing those attachment wounds. Be conscious to it. Work at it. What does that mean? It means you may need to go to therapy, and that's okay. It means that you may need to do some inner child work, and that's okay. It means you may need to do some journaling, and you can always get a soft spaces journal. Always look for them right in the description. So make sure that you get one if that's what you need. And you may need some combination of all three. And what else you may need is your breath and being conscious of how you're breathing and the rhythm of your breath and how it's feeding your soul and every member and organ of your body and what it's saying. What is the new story we will now breathe into our life in the soft space? No matter which method you use to be conscious of healing those attachment wounds, it all happens in your time. There's no rush. There's no right time frame, wrong time frame. It is your time. And I promise you, when you have healed beyond the moment, beyond the wound, beyond the level, you will know it. You will know it, you will feel it, and it will be well. As we do at the end of every podcast episode, we take time together to breathe. The importance of breath is essential to our very existence, just like healing those childhood wounds is essential, and making relational connections that are positive is essential to our human experience. So, what we do in the soft space is we take 2 breaths, inhale and exhale. And if you need to take more breaths, it is encouraged that you do so even after this episode has ended. Get into the rhythm of your body and feel it and do as it's instructing. Your body has wisdom in it straight from heaven above. Let it teach you what it needs. Listen to it and give it that, even in this moment. So I welcome you into the soft space. So for the next few moments, we're just going to breathe together. Deep breath in, and we'll count to 3 as we take a deep breath in through your nose. One more breath. And exhale through your mouth. As you take that breath and that exhale, your body may want to make a sound. That's okay. Let it make that sound. Deep breath in. One more breath. And exhale. Thank you for joining me in the soft space. It was a pleasure to be here with you, to serve you in this capacity. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you. Until next time, take care and God bless.